What's up, guys? Mike down here in the dungeon. Pardon me if this video, if you hear some background noise, it's threatening like a storm outside, and then my family's upstairs running around. So, I just thought I had a little bit of time here. I was gonna do something. I kind of opted out of it, and we got some friends coming over, so I thought I'd just kind of make a little video, like a little, I don't know, like a shooting the shit kind of update video. And I think I might have a little nugget of wisdom in here, maybe. So, when you start to, let me say, if you take a direct action approach with your life, and you kind of quit letting other people tell you who you are, tell you what to do, where to be, all of these things, who you should be, what you should believe, etc. And you sort of pull the mask off, and you pull back the veil of society and some things. So there's a lot of things we haven't gone over in videos, but I'm pretty much whatever stance that you could take in whatever situation, whatever you think is it, I'm almost guarantee you that I am not exactly aligned in the same way that you are, no matter what it is. I'll give you an example. So, this is a really crazy political time to be alive. There's so much crazy, like, culture war stuff going on, all this crazy stuff. And, there's very much like Republican versus Democrat. And you've got a lot of people who are also like kind of stuck in the middle, feel like, like we're not big fans of Trump, but also like, obviously what the Democrats are doing is insanity. So, and then there's other people still who were kind of outcast, even like me, for example. Like, I'm an anarchist. Like, let me rewind. I don't like to label myself at all. I just threw out a label, but I don't really like to label myself. I don't like to get myself tied up and narrowed down or put myself in a box like that. But if I had a political belief system, it would be like anarchism, but not like, whatever you're thinking, like Antifa and all this other bullshit. That's anarchy. In a lot of things that happen where people riot in the streets, those things are anarchy, but it's not like anarchism. So it's what I believe in is self-governance, self-responsibility, and self-governance, okay? And so that's a different political belief than the red, white, and blue. Do I like the red, white, and blue? I mean, I'd rather live here than anywhere else. Absolutely. Like, this is the greatest, I think this is the greatest country that's ever existed. It's got a lot of problems, but, it's still the land of opportunity, for the majority of its citizens and the majority of the world, if you're willing to work, right? So it is, in a way, it is the greatest country that's ever been. But am I some sort of die-hard red, white, and blue USA? I don't see that. I'm not that kind of person. I think that making children say the Pledge of Allegiance is just as egregious as teaching them that they're a sinner and that they're going to hell. I mean, it's brainwashing. Like, I understand that we live in a world that is, and you, me, us, are constantly having to battle these forces that are trying to control us, and one of them is the United States government. Sorry, it is. I believe that taxation is theft. That's the kind of my political bent. So when I say that whatever belief that you hold, if it's a commonplace belief, like if you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat or if you're a Christian or if you're a Muslim or if you're a feminist or I don't, if you whatever, I don't know. Like if you identify with some sort of ism or ist or whatever, I probably have a very different way of being than you do, and it's not because I think that you're stupid. I think a lot of people sometimes are brainwashed and that they get caught up in things and they're not questioning. Maybe they don't have the time to question. Maybe they got too much going on. I think you should be busy as a man, but there's such a thing as being too busy, where you're no longer in control. Okay, like you need to maintain a level of control. I mean, if you're not driving the ship, man, who is? But what I'm trying to say is that whenever you kind of discover these things about yourself, about the powers that be and whatever else, you sort of feel like it becomes more difficult to communicate or to find common ground with people. It's hard for me, say for example, if somebody was a hardcore leftist, it's not that I couldn't necessarily be in the presence of that person, but I probably would never ever be able to have like an actual relationship with that person in any meaningful way. I wouldn't necessarily couldn't be their friend. And the same goes for some hardcore MAGA person. I'm just there's something a little icky about that, and so you kind of find yourself almost a little bit isolated, but that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. I'm not bitching about it. I'm just trying to, I'm just rambling, but it's just one of them things, man. It's just one of them things. And I'm not very trusting. I've become less trusting. I'm not necessarily talking about people. I'm very trusting of people that I have in my life, but my circle is very small. But I mean more just information, right? You get information from the news or from online or whatever. I don't trust anything, dude. I don't trust anything. It's almost like, I think COVID really did in the authority figures or whoever else is the trust the science bros or whatever, all of that shit just sort of went away because everything that we were being told was a lie. Everything. I worked in healthcare during COVID, and I escaped that. And it was every day. Every day they're changing stuff, and it was so obvious that nobody knew what the fuck was going on. People get every single day. You'd go in, there'd be some new protocol now, almost every fucking day. It's like, dude, if you're changing the rules every fucking day, you have no idea what the fuck is going on. Oh, we've got new information. Motherfucker, that's not how... I didn't realize I had that running. Anyway, you get the point. So... But you start to see things, and you start to see things in people, and that's another thing. I think once you kind of get your shit together, if you ever do get your shit together, you start to see the flaws in people, and you do become less judgmental because, for me, I'm not so much judgmental of an individual. We've talked about this before. People on an individual scale are mostly, I can deal with them, and I don't have any issues. It's only when people get in groups that they become stupid. But most people, they have got mental health issues. All of us have got mental health issues. I made a video, the kids are not all right, because they're not. None of us are, and I don't know that anybody has been for a long time. I don't know anybody that's okay. So it's when you have that sort of realization, and you can kind of meet people where they are, and you're not really expecting a lot from them, you know what I mean? But you're not, at the same time, it's not like they're going to disappoint you that badly. But you see, just kind of the flaws in people, and to me, it's like, identifying flaws, well, that's one of the few things that I'm actually good at. But it's also helpful, right? If I know where I'm wrong, then I know what I need to work on. But I was working for a guy. I'm not a big. So I started most of my life. I worked for somebody. Yeah, I worked with the time clock. I'd punch in, and I'd work and I'd punch out. Just like a regular 9 to 5 job. And I've done that most of my life. And then after COVID, or when COVID was going on, I had to get out, man. It was like, the level of bullshit had gotten so high, and what they were going to make me do, they're like, you got to get this shot or you don't have a job. Well, I was like, fuck you. You're not sticking me with some experimental medicine. This is ridiculous. And so I went into business for myself, and it's, it's been phenomenal. It's been phenomenal. I'd tried various things before that, but nothing really took off because it was almost like plan B. I still had my day job, but I was doing this other thing. But then when I don't have my day job anymore, it's like, you don't have a plan B. You got to make this shit work. And so I was kind of like what you might call an independent contractor, but I also went into business. So I had my own business, which was a business, and then I had myself. So I'm also a business. Does that make sense? So I have a business that I run, and I have myself, who is sort of like a business as well. So like an independent contractor, basically. So I was working for a guy as like a contract employee and I was doing property maintenance. Okay, so he had like a lot of real estate investments that I was managing, basically, right, and doing a pretty good job of it. But there were red flags. There were red flags with the guy, and say what you will, but one of the biggest red flags was he smoked pot all the time, right? Like, and I don't have anything against pot, but if you're like a, mid-50s, pushing 60-year-old man, and sure, you've earned the right to smoke if you want to, right? I mean, he was a multimillionaire. He could smoke if he wanted to. I didn't have a problem with it, as far as like he could do on his personal time. But the problem is, it runs a little deeper than that. If you smoke pot every day, okay, you have a mental health issue. You have a mental health issue. You're at the best, you're immature. Okay, so try to be a man who runs his own business and then also works independently for someone who is less mature than him. Okay, it didn't work out. And it actually, it became where I was earning the majority of my income, because at first I was running the business and I was working for him just part-time. Well, then he wanted me to come on more, right? And the job was very enticing. Like, it was very enticing. Lots of freedom, lots of toys, like lots of fun guy toys and really cool things that I'd never done in my life. I got to do and be a part of, and learn. But there was a real maturity issue with the guy who was writing my checks, right? And eventually it kind of hit its head, but I had switched to where that was the majority of my income now. I'd really gone all in on this thing. Still had my business, and the business was doing fine. But I had my wife quit her job so that we could do the property management thing together, okay? And then I was still doing the business. Well, it became an issue where, I just couldn't. Man, one day, it was kind of wearing down a little bit. And then one day I just was like, man, you know what? I just can't take this bullshit anymore. I just can't deal with this fucking immaturity anymore. And so, spur of the moment, I just went back to the hospital, to the medical field, just like that. Cause I needed to supplement the income that I was making over here. So I was like, I'll just go. And I was only working part-time, like 20 something hours a week, and I was still running the business and doing fine. Everything's fine. And the hospital job became fun again. I didn't have to get the jab, but the hospital job became like fun again. And I was like, oh, this is kind of neat, still not a big fan of the clock in, clock out thing, but I was like, oh, this is kind of neat. This is an important job, and I got a lot more one-on-one interaction with patients and things like that, and so it was pretty enjoyable. And again, there were red flags with the boss, right? And I'm not somebody that typically has problems with the boss. Not usually. I mean, not undeservedly. I'm not one of these people that's like constantly getting into it at work and like losing their job or something like that. I was never like that. But there started to become maturity issues with the boss, and I'll tell you what those are. She wasn't smoking pot, not as far as I know, but she was sending, she was around my age. Let me just tell you, women, oh man, when you're a woman and you're in your late 30s, a lot of times what happens is these women, they try to hold on to that youth, man. They really do. And it's there's nothing wrong with looking good and taking care of yourself, but when you start getting plastic parts, right, and you start doing these things, and there's a level of, I want to say again, immaturity. It is immaturity. It's a mental health issue. It's like, if you're smoking pot every day, that's a mental health issue. If you're constantly obsessed about the way you look to where you're getting plastic parts and all this other stuff, right? And you're having extramarital affairs, like this is a mental health issue. There's a maturity issue here, okay? And it becomes like me. It's like, look, am I expecting too much? Am I expecting too much from these people? Am I expecting too much for someone that I work for to be more mature than me? And it becomes, maybe I am. Maybe I'm expecting too much. So that ended up not working out too, and I saw the red flags pretty early on. Like, well, hell, I saw them in the job interview, but I thought, this isn't really that. It's not going to affect me. I don't care if she's got fake titties and fake lips or whatever the fuck. It's not going to affect me because I'm just clock in and clock out. Well, maybe that was the problem. Maybe it not affecting me became a problem for that person. I don't know. I don't really know. But I know that there was a lot of maturity issue. And me, I am professional. If there's anything that I am when it comes to with money issues or dealing with business issues or healthcare, whatever, I'm the consummate professional. This is a professional environment. I expect people to be professional. In a sense, I expect them to be as mature or more mature than me. Okay? I don't think that that's too much to ask. But apparently it is, I think that sending inappropriate pictures to your employees, that's immature. These are immature things. You probably shouldn't have this position. This is a high-level position. You probably shouldn't have this position if you were this kind of a person, right? You probably shouldn't. Okay? Now, I didn't run into squeal to HR in the sense of like, oh, this person's doing all this shit. No, this person came after me. And I said, no. You're not going to be able to, you're not going to sit back there and act the way that you're acting and then come after me when all I've done has been professional. So, I went and, I didn't talk about any sexual stuff or anything like that. But I said, hey, this person's coming at me. This is workplace violence. This is extremely unprofessional. This is extremely unprofessional. I've never, ever been treated this way. And this person is immature, and this person should be removed from their job. Not that I didn't want the job. Hell, I was already out. I quit. I put in my notice at the same time. And I said, hey, this is bullshit. What's going on here? How you go? What is it called? I got egg on my face or whatever. Probably shouldn't have went to work there. I don't know. But, the point of this is that, like, you may get to a place where, like, you're more mature than people who are older than you. You're more mature than people who are in higher positions of power than you are. That you're more mature than your bosses, more mature than, and it becomes very difficult to deal with. And I think the solution, at least the solution is for me, is what do I do? I go back to work for myself. I go back to work for myself. I always had the business, so then I just go back to work for myself and I put myself for sale. I'm for sale. And so far it's been fine. It's been fine. Like I couldn't ask for anything better. But I think I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson is, I'm not the kind of person that can, can't work for somebody who's less mature than me. No way in hell. I'd rather scrape by than work for somebody less mature than me, less, self-aware, that means that I gotta work on my own, be an entrepreneur, and that's totally fine, because that's probably maybe what I should have been doing the whole time. But anyway, just some random ramblings. If you find yourself in a situation where you're having maturity issues with people above you, man, I feel you. I don't really know exactly how to approach it. I would say stay professional. Eventually people that are really immature will shoot themselves in the foot. But if you stay professional, then you'll be all right. It's sort of like that thing where, like, if you tell the truth all the time, then you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about remembering anything. And typically, if you do the right thing, you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about not being able to sleep at night. You don't have to worry about what people are going to say, or, as long as you know that you did the right thing. And as long as you stay professional in your environment, the haters, the shit talkers, the immature people, they'll all eventually shoot themselves in the foot and they'll be out the door, whatever it is. But if you can, work for yourself. Find a way where you can sell yourself. Sell yourself. You should be for sale, right? So good luck to you. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed my random ramblings.